I was still kind of passing it off as a cyst because I was like, it can't be anything else. It was actually my GP that said, there's no way this can be an ectopic. And by this point, I had noticed the shoulder tip pain. May come as a shock to you or not, but you're pregnant. And that was when everything just kind of hit me and I just burst into tears. The first doctor I saw was actually going to send me home. We might have to remove your right fallopian tube and your ovary. And I was like, sorry, what?
And to go and be placed on a ward where you've just lost a baby and then there's people delivering a baby.
Yeah, that could have been fatal towards me. You know, it wasn't just one life that they were trying to sort out. It was the two of us.
So true.
And, you know, if I'd left it any longer, don't know what would have happened.
And this is when the symptoms, unfortunately, started again.
The pain and stuff like that, it was all different. So in my head, it was just a miscarriage. They say, yeah, you've got a 20% chance of it happening again, but you don't want to believe that could be you. All of a sudden, I could hear this noise on the monitor, and it was the heartbeat of the ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, God, Danielle.
Yeah. And that's how he confirmed it. They actually gave me a picture of the embryo in the fallopian tube. There was just a mass in her fallopian tube. That ectopic is my niece that's here today.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was a dangerous surgery.
Hello and welcome to Becoming Lucy with me, Hannah.
And me, Lucy. So today's episode is one we've been holding with a lot of care. It's because we're talking about something that isn't rare, but is still dangerously misunderstood. We're talking about ectopic pregnancy, a form of pregnancy loss that can also be life-threatening, and yet so many women are dismissed, misdiagnosed, or left without support when it happens.
Yeah, and around 1 in 90 pregnancies in the UK is ectopic, which is a roughly 11,000 women every single year. And despite being a leading cause of maternal death in the first trimester, it's still often overlooked, especially when symptoms don't look textbook.
Today, we are joined by Danielle, who has lived this not once, but twice. Someone who has navigated trauma, grief, medical systems, and also mental health recovery. So yeah, Danielle, thank you so much for trusting us with your story.
Thank you. Thank you guys for having me.
No, pleasure.
Now, before we dive in, we normally talk about how our wonderful guests know either me or Lucy, but actually this one's a little bit different because we were introduced to Danielle by our lovely friend Lindsay, who we all know, off the back of Lindsay being a really great supporter of this podcast. So thank you, Lindsay, and thank you for introducing us to Danielle. But we do actually have one thing in common, which we found out when we were sort of setting all this up, is that we have got the overseas lifestyle in our bones, and Danielle also has worked for TUI overseas. So I think we're going to have a good chat today, aren't we?
Definitely.
Oh, whereabouts did you work, Danielle? Where were you again?
I've been everywhere. So Croatia, Salou, Tunisia, Cape Verde, Turkey, recently Crete, and the French Alps for 4 seasons as well.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
When did you finish overseas?
Officially last year. So I've been back in the UK for a good year now. Bit of a break over COVID, but otherwise, yeah, pretty much 9 years. So
that's
11 seasons.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I haven't really, I don't really know of that many people that are sort of still overseas. I've got a few dotted around.
Yeah.
But yeah, and what does it look like now compared to before the pandemic?
Very different. Very
imagine.
different. I mean, it's still so fun, and it's the lifestyle. It's, you know, the job changes, but the lifestyle stays the same. And that's what we miss most and what we loved about it as well. It's just, being 2 minutes walk from the beach and being out all night, or, you know, going to a nice meal with your friends and everyone just becoming a family. Like, it was always the best things. And we've now got friends all over the world.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's probably one of the best perks.
Yeah, well, that's literally how me and Lucy know each other. Literally, like I was her manager in Salou, and then now, however many years later, we're on this pod together. So it is amazing, and some of my closest friends are people who I've met overseas, and nothing is like it, is it?
No, not at all, not at all.
Yeah,
It's
we'll give a
great.
cheeky little shout out to Salute then, who's listening.
Hopefully Johnny Little.
I know. Put it on in the
Love
bar.
him.
Go on.
Johnny, Rodney, it's all of them.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's amazing, and it's great that you've sort of did it up until last year and
Yeah.
still loved it just as much. And
Yeah.
you know that sell of it is about to give me and Lucy a one-way plane ticket, I think. You know, same, the lifestyle's still the same, but the job probably I think might be actually slightly easier as well nowadays because of all the sort of virtual sort of assistance and the tech and all that kind of stuff that was kind of coming in my last year or two, and maybe even before that with the iPads and stuff. But I think it probably is even a little bit easier now, I'd say.
Yeah, it's the amount of technology that they've actually got now, and we use a lot of like local staff as well, so they kind of know the area so much more than what some of us did, because they know all like the less touristy areas that you can go and things like that. But yeah, the technology they've got is insane, and you know, people can book on apps, they can book the excursion on apps, they can still come to you, they can do this. You know, it's madness what they've got.
I quite like the old school stuff though, because obviously in Greece, I mean, it wasn't even that long ago when we were in Greece, like 2016, 17, something like that. And because of just it being Greece, like I saw a thing on obviously social media the other day, like going back to the 80s, and like no one remembers the old, you know, like you used to get the card and like scrape it over on the ticket.
I used that
I was
in
like,
Greece,
I'm still using them 10 years ago
Yeah.
because they were so much more. You can just go to the office, type it all in. Because if you tried to get signal on your iPad or something, all those bloody, you would hope, no, I want paper tickets. I want this. I'm not doing your technology.
Yeah. I remember though, like as a youth rep, it really wasn't cool when I got my big fucking black thing out, and I was like, come on in girls, that's 180 euros each then for the block, want to pay on card. I'm like, oh brilliant, now I'm gonna let me nan getting this thing out and do it. And I was like, hang on a minute girls, let's get the pen out. So yeah, it didn't look quite as cool back then, but you know, hey, it was a sale, so I was gonna take it.
Exactly, anything for a good sale and a bit of commission.
Yeah, we just get told off for using your pen. Like if you use your pen, it's fraud. It's like, well, I forgot my bloody machine.
Oh God, honestly, we did say, me and Lou said we are going to definitely do some kind of like repping episode where we're going to just ask, you know, our array of friends and overseas crew for stories, because there is literally nothing like it, and the stories that we can get are going to be amazing, I think.
Always. And I always say, like, I wouldn't have learned half of what I learned if it wasn't for repping overseas and stuff. Like the amount of skills that you gain is insane, and I wouldn't be able to do half of what I do now if it wasn't for that. And yeah, as you said, the stuff that we see is incredible and hilarious.
Yeah, and that's just from the reps.
Exactly. Oh God, no, we'll get hold of you, Danielle, at some point and get some stories from you for sure. But
100%.
let's crack on with today's episode.
We've already like divulged too much, but yeah, Danielle, with your story, we'll go back to the beginning, because I know you and your partner were together for a long time. You stopped contraception years earlier. I mean, were you actually trying for a baby, or just going with the flow, see what happens kind of thing?
Just going with the flow, because obviously we were overseas a lot of the time, so it was just, it was on the brain, but it was never something that we planned. We were like, no, we're loving our overseas life, but it was always a case of, if it happened, it happened, see where life takes us kind of thing.
Yeah. And then what point did you start to think, like, I've been off contraception for so long, something's not like adding up here?
It was during lockdown, actually, because we were back at home. It's when I could really kind of concentrate on what was going on with my health and things like that. And we weren't sure whether we were going to go back overseas, so we thought we'll try and make a life for it here. And then it was kind of then that I started talking to doctors and things like that to see where we were at, because we'd been together 6 or 7 years by that point, and you know, nothing had ever happened, and you kind of think to yourself, what's going on? So it was lockdown that I started everything.
And I think as well, when you're not sort of actively trying and you're not putting that pressure on yourself, you know, you couldn't blame it on that. You know, a lot of couples sort of know they want to have a baby, and if it doesn't happen, it's really terrifying, and that pressure's there. But for you, if you're just a little bit go with the flow, and still after 6 years, you know, you're a bit like, oh, actually, this could be something. And you'd had some sort of gynecology issues and pelvic sort of surgeries as well, haven't you? And did that affect anything then?
In the end, it did, yeah, because I suffer really badly with scar tissue. So I've had cysts on and off since I was 13 as well. And they've thrown in there a bit of endometriosis. It's never officially been diagnosed, but they have thrown it in there. But I do get adhesions and scarring. And they think that is what was starting to cause a lot of the problems because I had so much scarring because I've had 6 or 7 surgeries and
Right.
it's just constantly scarring. But sometimes it's absolutely fine. Other times it isn't. So that's why they then started the testing just to see where everything was at, basically.
Yeah.
But- And then did you get anything from them tests, or was this when you started to get symptoms of like, oh, am I pregnant? Do you know what I mean? Where did
Yeah.
that all come into it?
So I actually started the testing in October of 2020, and it was just simple blood testing before I went on to do anything else. And all my bloods came back perfectly fine. So all my hormone levels are fine. There was no issues at all. So that's when they kind of were going to start sending me for ultrasounds and MRI scans and things. And then it was November when I first found out about the ectopic, but I didn't have any normal symptoms. I was apart from eating oranges that I've never eaten in my whole entire life, but I didn't
Really?
think anything of it. That's probably the only symptom that I'd say was anywhere near normal to a normal
Yeah.
pregnancy.
And you
Yeah.
were sort of still then bleeding, were you? And
Yeah,
things like that. So you just,
yeah,
how
nothing.
confusing.
Yeah, nothing made sense. I was having a normal period. Nothing changed except just for the tiny. When I look back on it now, just those tiny little things of being a bit more tired and eating oranges and things like that. Otherwise, there wasn't what I call normal symptoms at all.
Mm.
It
And
was
then
mad.
take us back, because obviously you said it was like November 2020 now, wasn't
Yeah,
it? And then you got a sudden pain, didn't you? Was it
yeah.
in your shoulder, or was it I'm pointing to my
Yeah,
shoulder?
it was. It
Yeah.
started in my pelvis. I was at
Ah,
work in the morning and I was working in a nursery at a time and I just got a sharp pain right across the right side of my pelvis. But because I've had cysts before, it was mimicking a ruptured cyst. So I just
right.
literally passed it off until later on in the afternoon when I was just getting worse and worse and I become really lightheaded.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my colleagues said you look really pale. I was constantly crying. Um, and then it was around 2:30 after my lunch that I'd taken some painkillers, but that's when I started bleeding again. I went, this isn't right because I've just had a period. I've never had this before.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Um, and then the pain just got so much worse. And I had to keep sitting down because otherwise I was just going to kind of felt like I was going to pass out
Pass out.
basically and felt
And
so sick with it as well.
so you were at work, you were having all these symptoms. Were you then starting to get panicky? And when was it that you were like, I need to go to A&E?
So I didn't actually go to A&E until the following day. I first just spoke to my GP because I was still kind of passing it off as a cyst because I was like,
Mm.
it can't be anything else.
Mm.
I've got no other symptoms of anything else. And it was actually my GP that said, there's no way this can be an ectopic. But he said, you should go to A&E, but see how you go. And it wasn't until the following morning when I was still in agony and my mum said, you don't look right, that she was like, you need to go to A&E. And
Yeah.
then that's when it all just went from 0 to 100.
Can I just refer back though, just for anyone
Mm.
who does have cysts or whatever? Is it common to bleed if you have a cyst then as well, or not?
Sometimes,
Right.
especially if it ruptures, you can, just because obviously it can be a lot of fluid. Mine wasn't heavy bleeding either when it started. It was just very light spotting, but it was, yeah, you still can get it and you can get the same sharp pain across the pelvis as well, which is what I had.
Mm.
Wow. And you then said you got to A&E, your mum made you go, thank
Yeah,
God for your mum.
Mhm.
yeah.
And you said it went from sort of 0 to 100. So talk to us about that. What did that look like? And what do you mean by that?
So within probably about 15 minutes of being there, they pulled me into triage. Luckily, it was when hospitals were nice and quiet. So they pulled me into triage and she just asked me some basic questions. And by this point, I had noticed the shoulder tip pain. It was
Yeah.
in my right shoulder. And it kind of felt like, when you sleep badly, it's kind of like that nerve pinching
Mm-hmm.
pain. It's really difficult to describe, but I'd noticed it. So she just asked basic questions like, obviously, when was your last period? Have you done a pregnancy test? Could you be pregnant? All those sorts of questions. And she did ask me if I had the shoulder pain, which I said, yes, I've noticed
Mm.
it. So she wanted to do a pregnancy test first and foremost, and then see where we went from there. Did the urine sample, put it on her desk, and within probably 3 minutes, she had me in her office. She sat me down, and I remember her words clearly. She said, "This may come as a shock to you or not, but you're pregnant."
Right.
And that was when everything just kind of hit me, and I just burst into tears. And the first thing, before she could say anything else, I called my other half up because he was working away. He was working away
Oh,
up in like Leek or somewhere.
Jimmy.
And
Sorry.
yeah. um, but yeah, I just called him and broke down and could barely get my words out. I didn't even say hello. I just said to him, "I'm pregnant," and just burst out crying.
And you
So
didn't
Yeah.
even just say, imagine that saying I'm pregnant. He's sort of thinking, okay, and you hadn't even got to the point that you were in A&E at this point.
no,
No, yeah.
no, he knew I was there, but again, he knows my history with cysts, so he thought it was just that. He
Right.
said just to keep him updated, but then as soon as like I said this to him, he was just like, right, what's going on? And he had a million questions. I had a million questions. And the nurse was so lovely, bless her. And she said, we're going to send you straight up to the early assessment, like pregnancy unit, straight up to there to get assessed by the doctors. And then that was the longest wait, because that was a good hour or so before anything came of it. They did a few different tests, but there was also other expectant mothers in there. And I'm sitting there with like tears streaming down my face because I'm in shock. And they're sitting there, 6, 7 months pregnant, kind of thinking, what on earth? It's one of those situations where you don't feel comfortable to be in that room, if you get
Yeah.
what I mean. The first doctor I saw was actually going to send me home as
Oh,
well, because
wow.
she didn't think it was serious enough until she realised how much pain I was in. And my bloods came back, and she could see, I think it was like my blood levels weren't where they should be, because once you've got a ruptured ectopic, your blood pressure and everything drops quite a lot, because obviously you're bleeding internally.
Yeah, I was going to
Um,
say that because the
yeah,
shoulder tip pain is a sign of internal bleeding, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
So, obviously, for our listeners who don't know, I think it's something to definitely keep in mind if women are listening. But for the doctor to turn around and say it's not serious, but you've already got the shoulder pain, and that's
yeah,
a sign of internal bleeding.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
it's mad,
it's
isn't it?
because they can manage it two different ways. So you can either have
Right.
surgery, or they can give you something, I think it's called like methotrexate. So it depends how serious it is. And sometimes they'll just monitor kind of like the bleeding and the pain. But it was when my bloods came back that she was like, no, we're getting you in for a scan today. And within half an hour, I was in the ultrasound room. And bearing in mind, I was on my own because it was locked down. My mum
Yeah.
was somewhere else. My other half was working away. So I was entirely on my own. And my mum, I hadn't actually told her at this point that I was even pregnant. It was just between me and my other half. Um, and then the radiographer said to me, she went, "I found a mass and I'm really sorry to tell you it's an ectopic pregnancy." And I was literally just like, just broke down. Didn't know what to do, didn't know what to say, just broke down.
And
It's not-
just like you said, to kind of just have some pain the day before, go to hospital the next day, then get told you're pregnant, then be sort of laying there, then get told it's ectopic. Like,
Yeah.
talk us through those emotions. Obviously, yes, you broke down, but can you remember sort of what else you were feeling and how you were reacting to it?
I think just shock, because it was 10 o'clock in the morning, I was told I was pregnant. And then by 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was told that it wasn't a viable pregnancy, basically. And then by kind of 9, 10 o'clock in the evening, I'd lost my right fallopian tube completely and technically wasn't pregnant anymore. So the
Yeah.
emotions, it was an emotional roller coaster. Like it's so hard to describe, because a lot of it doesn't seem real either. Even when I look back on it now, those parts don't seem real, because it's almost like you're not there, but you're there. Obviously, you've got the emotions, you've got to look at what's going to happen next and try and navigate so many things going on. And at the same time, I had no idea what to expect, because as a lot of people, I'd only heard about ectopics. I hadn't, looked up any of the symptoms or what happens next.
I
So
was going to
yeah, it was
ask you
just,
that. Yeah, sat in the hospital.
yeah.
Like, did anyone speak to you about ectopic pregnancy? Like, or you just sat
Nope.
there, like, you've got it, and did they give
Yeah.
you a leaflet? Did was it Wi-Fi?
I,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
I had absolutely nothing. And I didn't even like Google it, to be honest, because I was in such shock. The only thing I actually wanted was like my partner there. And bless her, they allowed my mum to come in to the ward, and my partner, he was luckily with my uncle. So they literally just turned around and came straight back. Yeah, it's the I saw think I saw 4 doctors in the end, because they kept coming in. One minute they said that they were just going to monitor it, and then they said, no, we don't know how much you're actually bleeding, so we need to do surgery.
Right, yeah.
But it wasn't until I got down to the surgery that they said, we might have to remove your right fallopian tube and your ovary. And I was like, sorry,
Wow.
what?
So you'd gone
Jesus.
from like being pregnant to then suddenly being told that you might lose, obviously, one of your ovaries, which
Yeah,
would be catastrophic.
yeah.
And talk us about that. Talk us through that surgery then. So you got told these different mixed messages, and then they sort of finally sat you down and said, "This is the plan. This is what we're going to do." Or did you not even know that? Was it kind of when you woke
No.
up they told you what had happened?
Yeah, so it
Wow.
was. So they only told me about potentially removing the fallopian tube and ovary when I was actually down getting the anaesthetic. The consultant I had then, he was really lovely. He was like, "Did no one tell you this could happen?" I went, "Nope, didn't have
Wow.
a clue." And then they got me in and everything, and then I remember waking up still in. They woke me up in the theatre, but they
Wow.
said they actually saved my ovary, but they had taken out my right fallopian tube at the
Yeah.
time. So, but obviously, because you're only just coming out of anaesthetic, again, I couldn't process what had happened at all. So it probably wasn't until the next day that I really realised what had gone on.
Yeah.
Like, it was crazy.
And explain to us what happens in an ectopic pregnancy, which you know now, because obviously you just said you lost a fallopian tube, you could lose your ovary. In my head, I've just got this little cell or whatever in your little fallopian tube, and it's evolving. Does it burst? Does it make? I know it's probably quite dramatic. I've got like bursting ovary coming off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? This is what's going
Yeah.
on in my head. What happens?
So it is that basically the egg gets fertilized in the fallopian tube, and it gets because I had scar tissue, it couldn't move any further forward, so it couldn't move
Right.
into the uterus properly. And so it starts growing in the tube, but what people don't realize is your fallopian tubes are tiny, like they're really, really small. And they think I was about 7 weeks pregnant on the first one, so you can imagine what the size of an embryo normally is, around 7 weeks. Although it's small compared to the fallopian tube, that's actually quite large. So it just gets to a point where the fallopian tube can't handle the stress anymore, basically. And yeah, basically just bursts. Sometimes they can save it, sometimes they can't. There's so many different things. And there's also not just fallopian tube ectopics. I've learned there's so many different other types of ectopics you can get. But fallopian tube ectopics are like the most common ones.
Right.
So
Wow. And just to have that happen, and then you're kind of waking up from surgery. So your partner's there at this point, your mum and your uncle, right? Are they all there, or is that still kind of not allowed?
no
'cause
one.
it's pandemic? No one.
Yeah, so my other half came just before the surgery, and then he had to go home. So when I got back to the ward, I was completely on my own. But obviously the first thing I did was literally just FaceTime my mum and my other half, because they were at my mum's house. Just FaceTimed them both. Don't know what I said to them. Can't remember that much.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's still a case of you're waking up after major surgery and after having a major organ removed, and you've got no one kind of by your side. You don't know what's going to happen next. No one was really explaining it.
Yeah, and I have a question. And what kind of ward did they put you on then? Was it still like in a maternity ward or just a general ward? Like, was that taken in? Because I've had experience in the past. I will only say I've had a miscarriage. I was very, very young, and I was put on a ward with ladies who wanted children and lost children, and it's
Yeah.
very hard. Do you know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
the other way around when they were having children, and to think, do you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
what was your case?
I was still on the early pregnancy assessment unit,
Right.
and that is directly opposite the delivery suite. So
That's just mind blowing, though, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
emotionally and physically, you would have been in such a state, and then to go and be placed on a ward where you've just lost a baby, and then there's
Yeah.
people delivering a baby.
Yeah. Luckily, I was in my own private room,
Right.
because
Yeah.
the hospital that I was at is quite good for that. But I remember the next day when I was like discharged, and I was seeing all these mothers with newborn babies and stuff walking through to the next ward and things like that. And even to this day, I struggle to go up onto that ward. And my sister works over there, and
Wow.
I struggle to go up onto that ward. And that's where she had my niece as well. And it's
Yeah.
like, it's still so hard for me to go up that way.
Well, it's triggering, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's you you literally went there that morning, like you said, and then left there the sort of next day with being pregnant, then having major surgery, going
Yeah.
on to a ward where you're seeing babies, like you said, then leaving the next day, not being able to continue with the
Yeah.
pregnancy. No wonder you can't go there, because
No.
even the smell or the sight or the walk up the stairs will
Yeah.
trigger how you felt back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So when you were
Well,
to start discharged then, obviously you were physically patched up, so to speak.
Hmm.
But you were told to go home. Obviously, this is the midst of the pandemic.
Yeah.
So were you given any support or offered any support after you left hospital?
No, this is the biggest difference between my first ectopic and my second ectopic, because they were in two different countries as well. The doctor that discharged me had no empathy towards what had gone on. They didn't give me any information. There was no kind of, just to let you know, this is what could happen with your body. The nurses on the ward were absolutely amazing. They took the time to
mm,
sit with me and kind of try and explain a little bit, but they
Mm,
weren't the professionals in it. But the doctor just kind of, I wouldn't say dismissed everything, but there was no empathy,
mm.
and she was just like, well, this is what you need to do. If you get an infection, do this. You've got a 20% chance of it happening again. If it does happen again or you fall pregnant, you need to come and let us know straight away. Then that was it.
yeah, I
She was
think,
more concerned that I didn't have a mask on.
wow,
Oh
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's who you get, isn't it? I mean, I want to highlight, obviously, no disrespect to our NHS. They do
Mm.
absolutely wonderful things.
Mhm.
And, the fact that you can have a ward and you're in a room, it's just
Yeah.
you're in that area because those
Yeah.
specific doctor and nurses are geared up for that, isn't it? It's not more about the emotions, but obviously we're talking about the mental side of it as well. But again, it just shows how much I think it's either who you get or again they're just so rushed, aren't they? You like to say
Yeah.
this is it. Like you need
Yeah.
to go. There's other people to see, and the nurses are trying their best, and
Mhm.
Yeah.
in that situation.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think as well, like when you mentioned they were more concerned, if I was wearing a mask, and, at first you're like, wow, but actually, if we rewind to the pandemic, like it was a really, really scary and horrible
Yeah.
time. So that concern they had about the mask feels so sort of inconsiderate when you think about it. And it still
Yeah.
was. But then in the same breath, it's like, they're like fighting this pandemic in a
Yeah.
hospital, and they're only getting the information they're getting told. And your case, I just feel like absolutely could have been handled better.
Yeah.
But it is mad when you think about if that was to happen now.
Yeah.
um then I do believe you probably would have got a lot better aftercare, because
Yeah.
the pandemic wouldn't be in the forefront of
Mm,
their brains. And that's sort of what's so terrifying as well. Like you go through it, and actually you would have probably received a lot better care had it
Yeah.
been now.
Yeah. And it does seem like it was, like, looking back on it now, that it was very rushed. Like, it was very much like, right, we'll get her in, we'll do what we need to do, and then literally just get her out kind of the next day. And I do know now that there's a lot of charities out there that have actually
mm,
advocated for pre-24-week baby losses. So they now do get like little memorial packs. They get more information on
mm,
what would happen to your body next. A load of us have now got like actual certificates, because otherwise you don't get anything. So the hospitals are now much more aware of how to kind of deal with these situations and deal with the aftermath, really, how to be a bit more I don't know if caring's the right word, but just a bit more sympathetic to what's actually happened.
Yeah.
mm.
And did you ever grieve your loss? Do you think that you ever sort of was able to do that?
Not properly. I think the first one, it was very upsetting for quite a few months, and come around my first Mother's Day after the
Mm,
loss, that was really difficult, and I would have ups and downs, but I didn't grieve properly because I didn't know how to.
Mm,
A lot of people just say, "Oh, you'll be fine. Just move on, try again." And this is the biggest stigma around baby losses, is people don't know what to say to you, and they don't know how to deal with these situations, and you kind of just get expected to move along and just get
mm,
on with your life. I'd say it probably wasn't for 6, 7 months later that I actually realised how serious it was, and the fact that actually with the internal bleeding, that could have been fatal
mm.
mhm.
towards me. It wasn't just one life that they were trying to sort out, it was the two of us.
That's so true.
And if I'd left it any longer,
Yeah.
don't know what would have happened.
No. And then
So
how did you find these like charities and communities? Like
Google.
afterwards, just
Google
Google.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah, Facebook, as always, you can always find a good group on Facebook. And it's when I came across the Ectopic Pregnancy Trust, and they do so much for people. They always have leaflets in hospitals now. They're amazing. They have links to people that you can talk to and things like that. So they've got so much information on their website as well, and they're always posting things on their Facebook and social media
That's
accounts.
amazing. And talk us through then sort of the couple of years after your first ectopic pregnancy. Then, like you said, you've alluded to people were sort of expecting you to move on. It took you sort of 6-7 months. You were looking and you found these sort of charities. And what happened then? What happened in those couple of years?
Just kind of went back to normal life almost. I left the nursery role because of issues that happened there, and it was just really hard for me to go back as well. I was working with 1.5-year-olds and the babies, and for me I was just like, I wasn't ready to be in that environment. So I kind of moved on to different roles until we eventually decided we'd had enough of the UK again and went back to do a ski season. But yeah, it was just trying to live our lives as much as normal and just decide how we want to navigate, because we weren't sure then if we were actually ready to try again for another baby, or we didn't know what we wanted to do. It didn't just affect me, it affected my partner as well. And yeah, we just tried to get on with lives as normal, and that meant going back to do a ski season.
Yeah. And going back to that ski season then, that was 2022, is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
You're in France, you're doing a ski season, again, trying to live normal, get back to routine. And this is when the symptoms unfortunately started again. What the
Yes.
hell was going through your mind then?
Terrified. Biggest difference this time is that I actually knew I was pregnant beforehand, and I
Wow,
had
God.
more of what you call typical symptoms. I still had a period, end of December, had a normal period, but it actually then stopped and then kind of started again. But I actually had a really bad cold. So I thought that was just playing havoc with my hormones, which, as we all know as women, it can do. Um, but it wasn't until I was kind of feeling a bit low, and my boobs were like the sorest they've ever been.
Do you
Like I
think
couldn't
because
even
it's
wear a
cold
sports
though
bra.
as well? They say,
Yeah.
don't they, it reacts more in
Yeah.
the cold. I don't know, Hannah, was your
Yeah.
pregnancy, you were kind of in winter as well, weren't you? But
Yeah,
you were later on.
Yeah, I am. I've sort of found out in the November, and then sort of so I was like sort of 3-4 months. Then it kind of hit this sort of summertime. All I know is that my boobs grew to the size of Jordan's. No joke, honestly, no joke. They were absolutely massive. I don't know if you remember at my baby shower, Luce.
Yeah,
Like
they were
you,
huge. Yeah.
they were just out here. I remember my friend saw a picture of me when I was about 12 weeks pregnant, and I was in a group, and she was like, "It's a good job I know you're pregnant, because I just looked at that picture and all I saw was tits." And I was like, I know she's pregnant, but that's the only thing that happened to my boobs. They just got
Yeah.
humongous. But I also have heard that like the cold can affect, a pregnancy in itself. So yeah, like Lucy,
Yeah.
I bet that felt a little bit different. So were you hoping that it might be just the cold that was affecting it differently? Were you hopeful?
Yeah, it was really odd, because I remember it clearly on a morning, like when I did the pregnancy test, and I was in such shock that I actually hid it from my other half while I had a shower and everything, and I let him go out skiing, but he knew I was acting really off, but he just kind of left me to it. And I actually did two within like a couple of hours, like within an hour of each other, because I was like, this isn't real. And because I'd had what I'd call more typical symptoms with my boobs hurting, and it clicked because I'd gone off coffee, completely gone
Right.
off coffee. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And weirdly enough, I had bought 2 days before a massive tub of crispy onions, because all I could think about was crispy onions.
Yeah, you
So-
had additional symptoms, didn't you?
Yeah. And that was the difference, and the nausea. But obviously, being in the mountains and being in ski seasons as well, you can put it down to being ill or in the cold or just tired. But yeah, when I found out, it was just shock and terror and the what ifs and everything else. But there was also that little bit of a spark
I
inside of
was
me that
going to
actually
say
went,
that. Yeah, was
yeah, that actually
excitement as
thought,
well.
This could
yeah,
be it.
is this gonna be it? But then there was also the whole, wait, I'm in the middle of a ski season. What on earth do I do if I am, kind of thing. So there was, again, so many mixed emotions. And then about an hour later, I called my other half to tell him. And I just broke down again on the phone. He was like, "Why didn't you tell me while you were there?" And I was like, "Just couldn't." I think it's more that I needed that time to know that it
Process
was
it.
Yeah.
real and what was going on before I could share that
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
him.
And then
So,
what happened after that then? Obviously, you told your other half. Again, I'm sure he had that spark and that hope. And
yeah.
talk about the time frame, sort of when you found out, you got excited, but you was also nervous. When did the symptoms of ectopic start again?
So they started about 2 days later. So we
Oh,
actually had
right.
2 days of kind of just living life and enjoying the moment. You know, we were talking about getting a little baby grow from Val d'Isere to take home with us, all this sort of
Oh.
thing. I tried to go for blood tests, but my veins are awful, so they couldn't take the blood. So they wanted me to go down the mountain anyway. And I said, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll do that when I've got 5 minutes." And yeah, it must have been about 2 days later. We actually went down the mountain to go and do some shopping and have some lunch. And we were just sat at McDonald's. And all of a sudden, I kind of had the sharp pain, but it was different. It wasn't the same as previously. It was right across my pelvis and went down the side of my back. And I've
Right.
had kidney stones in the past, which felt again exactly like that. So I thought maybe this is just kidney stones, or it's, could this be something normal in pregnancy? Like
Mm.
I just
Yeah,
didn't
you don't know.
know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I tried to go. I really felt like I needed a wee, and I tried to go and I couldn't. And that's when things started to really click. And I was like, okay, this could be that, it might not be. Maybe let's just see how things go. And my other half did say, like, do I want to stay down the mountain and go to the hospital? And I was like, no, I just want to see where this goes. We're in the middle of a transfer day as well. I mean, it was a quiet one because COVID, luckily. But I said, no, I'd rather just get up back to the apartment and try and have a bath. I said, this could be absolutely nothing. And kind of when we got up to the apartment, the pain subsided for a little bit, but then it was coming and going in waves, which again is completely different to what
Mm.
I had before. And I didn't have any of the shoulder tip pain
Mm.
at this point. I had a bath, and then it wasn't until I got out the bath that I started really kind of like heavily bleeding. So I then thought, this is a miscarriage.
Yeah.
Is this what miscarriages are kind of
Mm.
like? Because I know from friends that have had them, they get extremely heavy bleeding, the pain and stuff like that. It was all different. So in my head, it was just a miscarriage. Called my other half because he'd gone out to do some work, and we just kind of rolled with it. We're like, okay, let's just see. It was really upsetting, but also at the same time, in a really horrible way, it was also a bit of a sigh of relief because we were like, it's not an ectopic. In our heads, we were like, if it's a miscarriage, it's planted in the right place this time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It just couldn't go through the rest of it. So in our heads, we were like, right, we know we can actually get pregnant in the right way. It just hasn't worked out. But, that could have been because of anything. So I just went about the day, was taking ibuprofen.
About to
The
say your
pain,
pain threshold must be something else. Like you're literally working, doing a transfer day, and anyone who's
Bleeding.
done a repping will
Literally.
know. And like, I'm not calling anybody out, but you'll get people saying they can't do anything because they've got period pains, and
Yeah.
you're doing a full shift.
Yeah.
And anyone knows repping, you don't get a break. You're running
No.
around and stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that you're heavy bleeding like that as well,
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
that uncomfortable and just
Yeah.
crack on. When did you even think I need to go to a bloody doctor? Do you know what I mean? Like,
I left it like a day or so. So when I first got the
jeez.
bleeding, I actually had, because it was still during COVID, and we only actually had 4 arrivals. We were really lucky. I managed to date my other half, just took over whatever needed to be done in my resort and his resort because we were Team Val d'Isere. So he let me just stay comfortable, and I was just working from my laptop, so I wasn't too bad, but I was still getting phone calls here and there. And eventually, like, the pain just subsided, so we just kind of went, maybe it's kind of over. Left it throughout the evening, just kept taking painkillers. I think we actually went out for dinner in the end in the evening, and just because it had subsided that much, so we had no concern. Then I think the next day, that's when it started to come back. But again, it wasn't really in my pelvic area, it was more down my side, and I just couldn't pinpoint what it was, but the bleeding had pretty much subsided. It was only like light spotting.
Do you think that sort of part of you didn't want to acknowledge what was happening? So that
Yeah.
hope that you had of it's a little bit different, so it can't be the same as before.
Yeah.
Oh, it subsided a little bit. So I feel like definitely I can imagine you sort of any little bit that you could try and push away to think this is not happening.
Yeah.
Was that that tool that you wanted to try and keep hold of
Yeah.
that a little bit longer? Would you
Yeah.
say that's probably something that you were doing upon reflection?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And it is that kind of, we were kind of excited and terrified at the same time. And we didn't want to believe, they say, yeah, you've got a 20% chance of it happening again, but you don't want to believe that that
Mhm.
could be you. So I think it was more of a coping mechanism that I was just going, no, it's definitely not this. This is different this time. It's not the same symptoms. I know I was Googling frantically, like just to check the symptoms and compare it to like a miscarriage and stuff. And for me, I was like, no, it is this, it is that. But it
And
wasn't until I was just kind of sat down and the pain
I
it
think
came back.
I think as well, like, you're so brave because you're sort of, you and your partner both just sort of went, well, if it's a miscarriage, at least it's, like you said, planted itself in the right
Yeah.
place. The fact that you can even have that conversation in the middle of obviously what was going on physically to your body, and then emotionally kind of just being so courageous by saying, well, actually, if this is a miscarriage, then actually we've progressed. I
Yeah.
just think that's incredibly amazing of you both to have that conversation with each other whilst that's happening, and be so positive
Yeah.
about this horrendous situation. And I just think that's just brilliant that you were able to do that and cling on to the sort of hope that it was a miscarriage, not an ectopic pregnancy.
Yeah.
So I mean, kudos to you both for doing
Yeah.
that in that
Yeah.
moment.
Thank you. Yeah. I think we just kind of had to really, like, more so me than my other half, men being men, yes, it affected him, but as we all know, men pretend to be the strong man and stuff like that. He
Very
was more
solution
concerned about
focused,
me.
aren't
Yeah. And
they?
he was more concerned about me and what I was going through, and because we had been through it before. And I think we did just want to hold on to that little bit of spark and think, okay, maybe we do another season after this and then we see where we're at. We know it can happen. We just need to look at why this didn't happen properly again. But yeah, again, the pain was just everything was so different about this one compared to the first one, and that's what threw me off
Yeah.
completely. And I think that's why I left it so much longer to go and see the doctor. And then as soon as I saw the doctor, he took, because they can check for anemia in the eyes.
Right.
He took one look at my eyes after I explained everything, and he spoke to my other half in French and literally turned around to him and said, "You need to get her to the hospital now. Like, it's serious."
Yeah.
Is that when
And
they said, like, this is ectopic, or didn't they say anything? It
no,
was just go to the hospital.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was, because we were in the mountains. He was the one that said, "Go to the hospital now." And then when we get down there, I mean, I can't fault the French healthcare. They were amazing. When we got down there, they took me straight in for scans and tests. They let my other half stay with me. I had one ultrasound, and this is the doctor that actually misdiagnosed it first of all. He said that I had a large cyst on my left ovary, but that it was a miscarriage. So again, we were like, thank God it's only a miscarriage. It's, for us, even though that's still horrible for us, it was actually a little bit of that bright light.
Relief,
And
hope.
they were so good. They kept me in. They did one more scan, and that's when they then realised, the other doctor then said, actually, they couldn't see what the previous doctor had said. They kept this all quiet until a bit later for me. It was when I thought I was actually getting discharged that the surgeon came in and said, I just want to send you up to gynecology one last time to get one more scan, and just for them to just go through everything with you. So I had my bag, everything ready to go, shoes on. And then when I got up to the last scan, that's when he literally, I mean, he barely spoke English and he was quite brutal. And this is my first time having men as gynecologists, like in
Right, yeah.
France. I had to just go with it. When he did the internal ultrasound, all of a sudden I could hear this noise on the monitor, and it was the heartbeat of the ectopic pregnancy.
Oh God,
Yeah.
Danielle.
And that's how he confirmed it. But I don't think he could understand what I was trying to say to him, is that the heartbeat? And he was kind of passing it off like, because I don't think he could quite understand what I meant. And he was like, no, it's not viable. It's not viable. But I was like, but is that the heartbeat? And he just couldn't quite understand.
What's viable? Sorry, I'm literally thrown now. What?
So it would be if it was in the uterus and
Right, okay.
Yeah,
stuff.
so it
So
can
if
go
it's not
ahead. The
viable.
pregnancy can go
Yeah.
ahead.
Right,
Yeah,
I
it
get
can
you.
continue.
Yeah.
Um,
Right.
Danielle, just on that heartbeat thing, did you want that confirmed because you wanted to sort of, I don't know how to put this, kind of acknowledge and come to terms with everything at the same time? Did you feel like that heartbeat was a thing that you needed to tell yourself because you had kind of been hopeful and sort of saying things to yourself that this isn't the same, you know, and all that kind of stuff you were doing sort of previously? Did you need that heartbeat to be confirmed to go, okay, now I know where I'm going with this?
Yes and no. It was more that it was the shock of it because they hadn't done, because on my previous one they'd literally just scanned me and said there's a mass there, it's an ectopic pregnancy. You know, when you think of an ectopic, because it's in the fallopian tube, you don't expect there to be a heartbeat. But actually, okay, the embryo isn't a fully formed embryo, it's still a living thing. And it does have that heartbeat. And it's actually really, really uncommon for them to confirm it that way. I was quite a rare one to have it confirmed. And I know of a few other people on the Facebook groups that have had that as well, but it's very rare. I think it was more, I was in shock that there was a heartbeat, because then to me, that meant it was real. And it meant that the embryo was there, the baby was there. And that's what then I couldn't get my head around. That's what broke me in the end,
Yeah.
was hearing that. And again, I was on my own.
Yeah.
My partner wasn't there.
And I suppose they've not even said it's ectopic yet either, have they? Because there's a language barrier. Or had he then?
He sort of did. He kind
Kinda
of,
went
he
through.
went, it's the same. He said it's in
Yeah.
your tube.
Right.
And obviously it had ruptured. But, and I, you know, he then sorted everything out, sent me into the waiting room, and there's a expectant mother sitting there while I'm sitting there just bawling my eyes out again.
Twice. That's happened twice. And that being in the
Yeah.
same waiting room as
Yep.
people that were expecting a baby and you've
Yep.
just been told you're going to lose one.
Yeah. That's probably like the hardest thing. But I'd called my other half, and you know, he was at the top of the mountain in Air. I think he said it took him 25 minutes to get down to Bourg Saint Maurice. That's normally a good 35-minute drive.
Oh,
But he knew
God.
the seriousness of where we were sitting. And again, we didn't tell our parents for ages. Both times we'd kind of hid it from them for a little bit until we knew what was going on, because we didn't want to.
Yeah.
For us, we needed that time together to function and go through everything.
Yeah.
So
And the surgery that you had in France, then you were in the waiting room. Obviously, you were emotionally completely broken, understandably. So then you were taken into surgery, what, a few hours later? And talk us through that
yeah,
surgery, because it was a bit more complex this time, right?
yes. So they took me down. I think this one was quite late. I'm sure it was about 7 or 8 o'clock at night. They took me down and they said I should only be about an hour and a half. Turns out I was actually 2.5 hours.
Right.
They really said they wanted to try and save my left tube so that I still had a chance of trying to get pregnant. And they did manage to save it. And I think this is where the complications were, because instead of just removing it and clearing all the debris and fluid out, they were actually trying their best to save it, which I'm so grateful for that they did. But the surgery then just took a lot longer. And I think when I came out of the surgery, the tube had actually got stuck in my throat. So they'd woken me up. I was then coughing and choking on the tube, and they had to put me straight back to sleep again.
You're obviously
What?
you're on about the tubes that obviously give you air and stuff,
Yeah.
aren't you? Not the
Yeah.
fallopian tube. Just
Yeah, no, not the-
because my mind goes, I'm like, Jesus, that's a weird way of taking
No,
it out.
To be honest, for a millisecond, I just heard tube and I was like, and then I was like, no, Hannah, it's not that
Yeah,
tube.
no.
But still, it's still like the choking
Yeah,
element of it.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's still horrific. Like, how
Yeah.
much more can you go through,
Oh,
Danielle? Bless you,
yeah.
Oh, it
honestly.
was awful. But luckily they dosed me right up on morphine, and whatever morphine they give you in France is so much stronger than the stuff we get here.
Oh,
It knocked
really?
me out. But I remember, I think I got back to the ward about midnight in the end, because I was in recovery for a long time because of what had happened during the surgery and when they tried to wake me up. And then again, my other half wasn't there. He had to go back up to the apartment, and I FaceTimed him. And all I remember saying is, they've saved the tube. He said I barely actually said those words, but I managed to save it because obviously I was so high on morphine and anaesthetic still. But what hadn't clicked is that I still had a drain sticking out of me, and I had a catheter in. Now in the UK, they normally take that out while you're asleep.
Right.
Not in France. They leave that in, which wasn't a nice experience the next morning. But yeah, it was all completely different. But the healthcare and the support I then got from the doctors in France, I had a nurse come to my house for 3 days.
Oh,
Wow.
Like,
For
it was
mental
amazing.
and physical support.
More physical, but the mental side, they couldn't really signpost me to anyone because of where we were in the mountains. So I kind of looked for someone myself on that point. But they were so supportive in the fact that, they wouldn't let me leave the hospital until they knew my blood work was okay and that I was completely stable. And I had to test negative on the pregnancy test as well. Or my
hormones.
pregnancy hormone had to be
Yeah.
dipped enough that they knew it was a successful surgery. Then they got me in a week later. They did more scans, everything. Like, they were amazing. And, I can't fault them. I think that process helped
Mm-hmm.
because they were so much more caring. And they actually, as strange as this sounds, they actually gave me a picture of the embryo in the fallopian tube when they started to do the surgery. So I've actually got that upstairs, which to some people, they'll probably think, why on earth would you want that? But for me, I haven't got anything from my first
Yeah.
pregnancy, whereas this one, I've actually got that kind of little thing.
Does it feel like
So
closure?
it did for a little while, but my mental health started to suffer quite badly afterwards. I think as well because I was in a foreign country. And I was working. I didn't stop.
You didn't give
I
yourself
went straight back
time.
to work.
Yeah.
6-7 days later.
That is very typical rep mentality as well.
Yeah.
I think all of us can agree with that. When you're overseas, you are in a bubble, but you've still got real life going on, and
Yeah.
you very much like close that off, and you kind of forget what's brought you overseas in the first place. And then to have something like that happen whilst you're overseas, so it's kind of like disrupted that bubble that you wanted to protect yourself from. I can imagine why you would have suffered mentally in that situation.
Yeah.
Did you seek help then for that through the charities that you had found previously, or sort of did it take you a while to actually get some help?
No, I think I think I was still technically recovering, and I'd found a company in London. I think they're called City Pregnancy. I just looked them up online, went through them, and normally they wouldn't support those that are in different countries, but they made an exception for me. And I actually used the mental health ambassadors through TUI as well. It was actually a new thing for that year, and I'd used one of them as well. So I had two people that I was kind of using. I had one that was more professional and, specialized in pregnancy loss. And then I had someone within the company that was, I think she was another manager somewhere, but she was just someone I could talk to because I was finding things so difficult. Like, I couldn't go out skiing. I was still recovering, and I had to keep remembering that I just had major surgery again. All I wanted to do was get out and go for walks and stuff. And I couldn't. I mean, I'm lucky that my mum was there for a few days. She came out for her first ski season just to come and see me, bless her. But yeah, it was, I had to try and find the support where I could this time around because I knew I needed it. I knew I would suffer a lot more.
Yeah, I can imagine though, because like you say, it's two major surgeries, it's two life-threatening, scenarios. Like you say, I mean, did your partner get any support? Does that make sense? Because it affects everybody, doesn't it, as well?
Yeah. He's not kind of the one that would go for like counselling and stuff, but I know that he was speaking to family, he was speaking to friends. We had some really close friends in ski with us, so he was talking to them quite often. He kind of had his own little way of dealing with things, and to be fair, going out and skiing was also his way of dealing with it. As long as he knew that I was okay, he would just go off and do his own thing, and a few beers here and there as well, as you do. But that's how he kind of dealt with it. He just dealt with it in his own way, and he let me deal with it how I need to do. But we kept the communication up between us, and for us that was a really important thing to be doing. So,
and are you still together now?
Yes, we're getting married next year.
Oh, are you? Oh, I love that. Oh, we'll do some bride talk after this, babe. I'm getting married in 7 weeks.
Lovely.
God, oh, that's so lovely. That's really nice. And I thought you were, because you were sort of still referring to him rather than sort of your ex. But I just thought then it's a hell of a lot of trauma to go through
Oh,
with
yeah.
your partner, and obviously that shows what a strong relationship you've got. And I think you really touched on the fact that you were communicating, because
Yeah.
if you had both shut down and if you had both kind of tried to deal with this and ignore each other's feelings, then I don't think you would be sat getting married
No.
next year. So I
No.
think, again, that's brilliant that you guys recognise that. And
Yeah.
especially as sort of the mental health movement, obviously, as we know, has been moving and progressing a lot over the recent years. And that's just a real example of how he also felt comfortable to talk about his emotions
Yeah.
and make sure that he was getting the support, however that may be, and recognizing that, because it definitely is a success story of why you're still together
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we need
And
to give
it-
a shout out to him. What's his name? Sorry.
Chris.
There we
Chris,
go.
yeah.
good job, Chris.
He's a good egg. Yeah. And I
Uh,
mean, like, to be fair, obviously I had all of that sort of stuff, and it was towards the end of the year that for some reason something triggered me some way, somehow. And that's again when my mental health actually depleted quite a bit. And that's where I think I said in like my little story that that's where if I hadn't have had the CBT,
Yeah, I was going to ask
I
about
don't think I
that.
would have actually been here now, because
Wow.
I got so bad. But I was also dealing with one of my colleagues at the workplace I was at, who was also having her own mental health problems. So instead of focusing on me,
Mhm.
I was focusing on her. And it
Right.
was getting to a point I was having panic attacks.
Mhm.
Even going to my local pub that I'd been to a million times, I would sit there and have panic attacks.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it was awful. But if I hadn't have had Chris by my side through it to help me, then, don't know where I would actually be today. That's
No,
for sure.
bless him. And then rolling back to the CBT, sorry, I'm making up words.
It's not like
I
you,
mean,
Luce.
not like me at all. I mean, I use it. I mean, some people say, oh, do you know what I mean? All you need now is
Mm.
turmeric and CBD and you'll face the world. But how do you think it helped you for others? Do you know what I mean? To advise.
Yeah. So they did 6 weeks with me, 6 separate sessions, and it helped me because they focused on the future rather than focusing on the past. And I think that was my biggest problem. They did diagnose me with PTSD.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think that was my biggest problem is I was so much in the what if I'd done this differently? What if I'd done that differently? Could I have done this? Could I have done that? I was so stuck in the past that I couldn't move on. And they really helped me get back into a routine. And it was silly things like they would get me to write down what I was doing of an evening and what I could be doing of an evening just to get me into a routine and stuff like that. And that's what I think really helped get me to where I am
Yeah.
now, because
Yeah.
it just, even to today, I've got a relapse plan if I need it. And sometimes I have referred back to it just to see, what things they put in there, the little bits of information that go, actually, maybe you could do this instead of thinking about this. And it's all those sorts of things that help me get through it. And I
Yeah.
mean, I did it through Vitamins. I did a self-referral.
Right.
Absolutely amazing.
I can totally resonate with what you've just said, because I also had that a few years ago, and I think with any type of therapy, everyone says it, but you have to be completely ready and kind of be open to having therapy, no matter who tells you. It could be staring you in the face that you could really do with some therapy. Until you're ready,
Yeah.
you won't go for it. But when you do and you get those tools and those techniques and you have your mind opened, it is literally the best thing. And when you
Oh,
were
yeah.
saying about not living in the past and living in the present and the future and all this kind of stuff, I've still got tools now that I use when I
Yeah.
feel myself going back to a state where I'm like, I feel guilt, or I feel, panicked about what happened in the past or whatnot. I bring that little toolbox out and I'm like, no, let's channel everything that I got taught on my walking therapy. We used to go for a
Yeah.
walk. I used to take
Yeah.
Loki. It was great. I need to hook her up again, I think, now. I feel like I'm at the stage where I might need it a bit more again.
See, I need to admit something now, because I completely read that wrong with CBT, because I was thinking of CBT oil. And I feel like I have to
love
put that
that.
in there because I was completely confused. So if anyone wants to explain what
That
it
is
stands
brilliant.
for. I was like, fucking hell, it works wonders.
It's cognitive behavioural therapy, isn't it? That's what it stands for. Yeah, it's a form of therapy. This is fucking brilliant.
I use that. I'm like,
I mean,
that's
CBD
extensive.
probably would have helped quite a bit, to be honest, but I didn't try it. Should have done.
And you can say it because it's legal now. So, like, you can actually say that you can use that.
It's in my trip cans, but at home, like, I'm like, well, there's therapy in a can.
Love it.
But no, love that. And I just think, well, fair play. We should maybe have explained the acronym. But no, yeah, that's what it is, Lucy. It's therapy. Although CBT oil is probably a form of therapy as well, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyway, but no, I totally resonate with that. And now, Luce, I think you'll be able to resonate with that as well, because it's probably therapy that you might pick up at some point.
Turmeric and CBT oil. I'm like, I completely got this wrong, and that's going to be a pain to edit out, so I need to own this.
Brilliant.
That's what makes this perfectly unpolished, right? And that's our little brand theme that we like to talk about.
You'll have to do like a little bloopers bit.
There'll be a blooper, Danielle. There'll be a blooper about this, I can assure you.
To be fair, it will probably be kept in as well.
We don't take ourselves too seriously. And there's definitely been things that I've said on this that hasn't probably been sort of how it should be. And that's what we like in it, Luce. But no, I could totally resonate with that. So I'm really pleased that obviously that allowed you to move past sort of that trauma and that sort of mental health depletion that you talked about. And I think going forward, obviously, in terms of your future for sort of fertility, you were told that the only way to conceive was via IVF, right? So did you use those CBD tools to help you get over that diagnosis as well?
Yeah. So it was actually during my CBT that I got the diagnosis. I went for a private Hycosi scan, and that was the closure that I needed, because it actually showed what was going on. It showed that I had the tubal disease, and the Hycosi is where they do the like fluid through a catheter. So it's like with ultrasound, so they can see where the fluid is going. It hurt like hell.
Really?
Normally it shouldn't hurt as much as it did, but because my left tube was completely blocked, it caused a lot of pain. They do say sometimes having a Hycosi can actually flush out any debris, and some women have actually gone and got pregnant 6 months later, kind of thing. For me, obviously, it hasn't. But that was the closure I need, and that was at the same time that I was doing that therapy. And I think all of that combined, it helped so much. And, it's now given us a different outlook on life as well, an outlook that we weren't expecting, because we've got that choice. So we can actually choose now whether to have kids or not. And it's given us a completely different perspective and outlook.
That's given me goosebumps when you just said we've got that choice, because actually you're right. Like, something has happened in your life, obviously ectopic pregnancies, which is completely out of your control. And now sort of you flipped it and you're like, well, actually, we've got the choice. We can do IVF, or we can live the rest of our life without having children. And we're happy with either option. Is that kind of how you feel about it?
Yeah, it's been so hit and miss. Like, I'd say for the first year after the second ectopic, I was very much like, I really want to have kids, all this sort of thing. And we were back at home for the rest of 2022 until we went to Turkey in 2023. We just can't keep us in the UK for that long. And I was very much focused on that. And actually going to Crete last year, we had talked about having IVF in Crete because they've got some of the best fertility clinics, and the NHS and IVF is not the best because you have to be a certain BMI. You can only get 1 or 2 rounds. You can't get the full 3 rounds. And it's like a 10 to 12 month wait. It's, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
Do it.
I know at least 5 people that are going through IVF. And it's actually a really close subject to my heart because of, the people I know. And I have found out so much about IVF that it is not for the faint-hearted. Like, there is so much that goes into it. And not only physically, that emotion that you have to take with you through every round, through every discussion, the hope that you're clinging on to. And then at the end of it, it's well, in most cases, it's a failure, and there are a lot of positive cases, don't get me wrong, and I truly believe the people I know that are going through it, I am everything is crossed in my whole body that it's going to work out for them. And if you and Chris do decide in the future, if you know, at the
Yeah.
minute, I think it's kind of you're waiting and seeing. But I hope and I pray that anyone that goes for IVF gets the wish they deserve, because
Yeah.
it is just a crazy roller coaster, isn't
Oh,
it?
yeah. Yeah. And it's kind of like, so I've almost seen it with my sister. She didn't actually have IVF. She's got severe endometriosis and she got put in early menopause at the age of 22. So she
Wow.
managed to get a load of egg freezing done on the
Mm.
NHS, but she actually fell pregnant through that because it had enhanced her hormones so much. So she'd gone
Wow.
from being in early menopause to falling pregnant. She's done
Wow.
quite a few like bits on the news and stuff about her endo and stuff like that. And she's now got the cutest baby. Like, I love my niece to absolute bits. She's absolutely adorable. But she actually went through almost like having IVF, and it was completely unexpected because she had to do all the hormones and stuff to have the egg freezing.
Right.
She just didn't have the insemination part. That, luckily for her, in the end, came natural.
Wow.
But she also then got told she was having an ectopic pregnancy
Oh,
when
Jesus.
actually she wasn't. She's had her right fallopian tube removed.
No way.
Was that after you, before you, missed
After me.
you? Right.
It was
Yeah.
while I was in Turkey, 2023.
Wow.
I got the call specifically from her. But she wasn't having an ectopic. There was just a mass in her fallopian tube. That ectopic is my niece that's here today.
Wow.
Yeah. But it was
So
a dangerous surgery.
yeah,
They
and
did surgery.
again a misdiagnosis again, you know, and that could have wow, and then your
Yeah.
niece is the
Yeah.
outcome. Oh, how amazing.
But that was a big trigger for me in 23. It was something I wasn't expecting to trigger me at all. And I think because it was my sister
Mm-hmm.
and I was so close to her, and you know, she wasn't expecting to have kids. She had previously said she never really wanted kids. It wasn't until, you know, this happened so quickly and unexpectedly that her mindset changed. I could barely talk to her for a good 4 or 5 months. Wasn't until we actually came home from Turkey in between then and going to Cape Verde that I managed to kind of come to terms with things. But I found it really difficult, and she knows that as well, and so does my mum. Like, it was a big
Yeah.
thing, and I wanted to be there for her, but I just couldn't.
It's just
I was like,
triggering.
can't.
No.
Yeah,
I
it
think that's
was.
completely understandable. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of people who go through fertility issues have that battle with them, that they want to
Yeah.
be there for their friends and family who are going through the most amazing part of their life and the chapter they're about to start, versus this isn't it's not fair, this isn't happening to
No.
me, I've gone through this,
Yeah.
I can't have what you're going to have, I love you but I can't be there. Like, honestly, it must be the hardest battle
Yeah.
to have. And what's your relationship like now?
We're so much closer now, and you know, my niece is very much like her, but she's also very much like me. I'm now Auntie Nana. But Chris is her favourite. She absolutely loves Uncle Chris. But yeah, she's adorable. And we're actually really enjoying kind of being the auntie and uncle. Like, Chris has already done it. He's got grown up nieces and nephews. I say grown up, they're between 18 and 14 and 7. But he's kind of grown up doing that life. And now I've got my niece, and it's kind of, that's why we've put the whole having kids of our own on hold a little bit, because we're at the moment we're enjoying, one, our freedom, two, I'm loving being an auntie to, she may as well be my child sometimes, you know. I do say to my sister, I'm like, where's my child? And she's like, she's not your child. But it's, you know, the love that I've got for her, I think, is helping me still heal and stuff like that. And, you know, I'm in such a better place now. And partly I think it is to do with my niece as well. It's, you know, changed me over the last, since she's been born. You know, I absolutely adore her to bits.
Oh,
She's
it's
so
so
cute.
lovely.
Yeah.
It's nice that you've got that. And then, is there any lessons that you want to carry forward now? Like, is there anything you wish every partner or like employer, medical professional kind of understood, or anyone who's listening to this right now about ectopic pregnancy that isn't spoken about enough?
Yeah, just kind of listen to the person that's going through it, but also for women to listen to their own bodies, because it is such a serious situation and I didn't know enough about it. But also for employers, friends, partners, just, you know, be there for that person and do the research. I've had managers that didn't do the research, and they did think what I went through was something small and something little. They didn't understand until I fully explained it, how serious it actually was and how it affected me. And once they understood, they could then support me. So, you know, just if people could do a bit of research and understand what that person's going through, that would be much better, and offer support from the very beginning. Don't just say to someone, if you don't come back to work full time, don't bother coming back at all.
Can't
Offer them
believe
the
that,
support and offer
yeah.
them the time off
Yeah.
that they need.
And I think as well, like we'll link in this episode the charities that you've talked
Yeah.
about, because obviously they massively helped you, and obviously along with the other sort of tools that we've spoken about. But we'll definitely link them, because there are people that will not have any clue what an ectopic pregnancy was. And I'll be honest, I've heard of them. I know that they're not viable pregnancies. I know that you lose babies with them, but it's been really educational sort of for me to hear your story and understand more about what it is, and obviously how it can affect. And I think since having my daughter, from a fertility point of view, it like hits deep, and my pain is, my heart goes out to you for the fact that you've gone through this. We're super grateful that you have come on and spoken to us today, and you're sort of raising that awareness again about a subject that, like you said, people don't know enough about, and it happens to a lot of women. So honestly, thank you so much. And I think what we always do with our guests after they share their incredible stories is we are looking to the future, like you referenced with your CBT. So can you tell us who Danielle is becoming now?
Just a completely different person. I'm happy. I'm pursuing my career, and I've gained confidence, especially over the last year. Like, the confidence that's coming out in me lately, especially in my workplace, is not the person I was 3 or 4 years ago at all. You know, I'm really standing my ground, and I'm just trying to enjoy life and do as much as I can. And me and Chris are both trying to do as much as we can. And, you know, I'm trying to support everyone where I can as well. You know, I'm always on these Facebook groups, and I'm trying to be an advocate for ectopic pregnancies where I can, share my story. But I think it's a big confidence thing. My confidence has definitely, for some reason, come out of nowhere in the last year. And I'm just trying to be a better person and enjoy life and just see where it takes me and be positive.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think you show positivity
Yeah.
throughout, to be fair. You've always turned everything round, but I think you do. You just get if when you're helping others as well, and you know you can do something, it obviously gives you that joy. And I think if this episode has shown us anything, I mean, you can survive something life-threatening, you grieve deeply, you've still chose a future that's, you've just said it's full, it's joyful, it's yours and Chris's, you know what I mean, going forward. Like I say, there's no deadline. You hopefully got obviously a lot more to come. But thank you so much for your honesty and, like I say, your strength and telling your story.
Yeah, and obviously if you have enjoyed this episode and you want to know more, then definitely go in and link into those charities. And obviously our previous episodes, we cover a range of different topics, and we really hope that everyone finds something interesting, useful, educational and insightful from all our guests, because we would not be doing this podcast without people like Danielle and all our fantastic guests. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, and I think, anyone listening, just trust your body, like Danielle said, and push for those answers, and obviously know that you're not alone. But on that, I'm going to say it's the rounded up time. It's a goodbye from me.
A goodbye from me.
And a goodbye from our lovely guest,
Danielle.
I love it.
P.S. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the normal bollocks that we talk about at the end of it.
Really need to get that. We need to get that. Dude,
see you next time.
Bye.